Welcome to Happy's Kitchen. Today we're going to make a super simple and delicious no-bake s'mores pie. So our pie is going to have two layers. For the crust, we're going to use graham crackers, butter, and my little trick is I like to add a little bit of cereal. Sometimes I use salted pretzels. I think that adds a little bit more texture and depth to the flavor of the crust. Adding a little bit of cereal also makes your crust just a little bit healthier. After the crust, we're going to add a rich dark chocolate ganache. So for the chocolate ganache, we have a cup and a half of semi-sweet chocolate chips, 3 tablespoons of butter, and a 3/4 cup of heavy cream. So that's all going to get warmed up into a chocolate ganache. On top of the chocolate ganache, we're going to add our marshmallow fluff. And so here I have 10 ounces of marshmallow. I love using these big ones because they're literally about an ounce each, so you just have to count out 10. But the smaller ones, the miniature ones, are going to be a little bit easier to melt. We're going to melt that in with our milk, separately make a whipped cream, mix that together, and layer our pie. And my favorite part about this, of course, is that it's no bake. So even if you're in the heat of summer, you don't want to turn on your oven, you have a dessert ready to go to take to a dinner party or to serve your guests. So first we're going to make our dark chocolate ganache. To do that, we're simply going to add our 3 tablespoons of butter into a little saucepan, our 1.5 cups of dark chocolate chips, and our 3/4 cup of heavy cream. We're going to let that melt together on low heat. On this side, we're going to make our marshmallow fluff. So here we have 3/4 cup of milk. I like to use instead of a saucepan, I like to use a sauté pan because I think it does it a little bit faster. And then our 10 ounces of marshmallow, which I'm just going to tear up a bit so that it melts faster. If you're using miniature marshmallows, then you don't have this problem. While our ganache and fluff are warming up on the stove, we're going to make our crust. So to make our crust, first I'm going to put this in the microwave because we want melted butter, not cold butter. So that's going to go in for a minute. I'm going to make our crust the old-fashioned way, which is just with a clean Ziploc bag, and crumbling our crackers, then using a rolling pin to roll over it. You can also do this faster in a food processor or in a blender. Essentially, we just want our graham crackers to become crumbs. So there's no magic to this. Same with our cereal crumbs. Seal that up. And then just unleash your inner anger. Now we have a bag of graham cracker and cereal crumbs that's ready to meet our melted butter and be made into a crust. Let's give our chocolate chips a stir. You can see that a lot of the chips have already melted and it's incorporating well with our butter and heavy cream. So that still needs a couple of minutes to fully incorporate. Same with our marshmallow. I want to give that a stir. You can see that some of the marshmallows on the bottom are already starting to melt. We want all of the marshmallow to melt with the milk. Now we're going to take a pie tin, dump in our crust, and our butter. And mix that together. It's okay if your graham cracker crust is a little bit chunky. That will turn out fine because we're going to press it right in. I did not add sugar to my crust because I don't like my desserts to be super sweet. But you can definitely add 1/4 cup, 1/3 cup of sugar in the crust to your liking. Another nice thing to add to your crust is a dash of cinnamon, because it'll add a lot of depth to the flavor of the crust. So the recipe I'm using today is enough to make 2 8-inch pie tins. So I'm actually using a little bit bigger. I'm using a 10-inch cake pie today, or cake tin today. So instead I'm going to make 1 big pie, and I'm also going to make a couple little ramekins. So these are for when you don't want to share. So I'm going to also add some crust to our little ramekins. Now we're going to take something that has a flat bottom, like the bottom of a glass, and we're going to press the crust down really tightly. If you don't mind turning on the oven, you can also bake these for 5 minutes. It'll give it a nice toasty flavor. But it's totally fine if you don't bake it. The graham crackers will still taste delicious. You just want to pack that tightly. Now let's check on our ganache and our marshmallow filling. So our ganache is basically done. The chocolates have melted in. We can turn off the stove now. The remaining chocolates will continue to melt while the ganache cools and as you stir. Now onto our marshmallow fluff. This is also built beautifully incorporated with our milk. And now we have this melty, gooey marshmallow fluff that we can incorporate with some whipped cream for our pie. So let's also turn off the stove and let that cool. We're also going to spike up our dark chocolate ganache a little bit. I'm going to add in a splash of Baileys. You can also add in Kahlua, amaretto even, or just some straight up bourbon. Now we're going to make a simple whipped cream. So I just have heavy cream, 2 cups. I'm going to pour it all to my KitchenAid. I'm going to blend it on high. To make sure that your whipped cream comes out successful, make sure your bowl is clean, your whisk is clean, and that your whipped cream is cold. It's also ideal to chill the bowl if you have the refrigerator space. After about 3 minutes, you're going to see soft peaks form. We're going to let it go for another minute. Now you can see our whipped cream is holding its own shape, so it's ready to be incorporated with our marshmallow fluff. So now our marshmallow fluff has cooled. You can also see it's deflated quite a bit. You want to make sure this is completely cooled before you add in the whipped cream, otherwise your whipped cream is going to be deflated because of the heat. So I have my 2 cups of whipped cream here. I'm going to fold in first about a third. I'm just going to fold like this. Careful not to deflate our whipped cream. So I'm always sort of scooping to the outside and then folding inwards like this. Now I'm going to add in the rest of the whipped cream. The marshmallow fluff on its own is a little bit sticky, it's probably a little bit too sweet, but blending it in with the light and fluffiness of the whipped cream will give you the perfect pie filling. Now our marshmallow fluff whipped cream filling is made. We're ready to assemble our pie. So on top of our crust, we're going to layer on some of our dark chocolate ganache laced with Baileys. So it might look super liquidy right now, but this pie is meant to be served chilled, and once it chills in the fridge, this chocolate liquid will become more of a ganache pudding texture. And we're just going to smooth out our chocolate ganache so that it covers our entire graham crackers. Now we can layer in our marshmallow fluff. So to garnish our pies, I'm going to sprinkle some reserved graham cracker crust. I'm also going to shave some chocolate on top. Just take a peeler and the normal chocolate bar. You'll get these adorable shavings. So here is our finished s'mores pie. Make sure to cover this and refrigerate for at least 4 hours before serving. I like to refrigerate mine overnight. You can also keep it in the fridge for a couple of days, but it doesn't usually last. So I hope you enjoyed this. Give it a try at home, and thanks for watching. Happy cooking!